Hello and welcome to another question and answer session brought to you by Path of the Just Ministries. Our question that we have for you at this time is concerning Islam, God's Army. And this is coming from presenttruth at ovi.com. I understand that Islam is God's army, but does not Islam come from Rome? How can God use them? And I also don't understand how they should be saved. Well, the first part of this question concerning does Islam come from Rome, we would say no. According to the book of Revelation, in the fifth and sixth trumpet, it is Christ that is directing, guiding, and controlling the movement of Islam as a scourge against an apostate priesthood and to also make war against the armies of Rome. It is the literature that is out there concerning the Jesuits and the Illuminati and the secret societies that has influenced our thinking and our understanding concerning Islam. When we compare the two views, they do not coincide with one another. They are as light and darkness, as night and day, as black and white. And we're going to have to determine whether or not we're going to depend upon the philosophies and the ideas that Roman Catholicism has put out there and also their methods of studying, or are we going to choose the rules of Bible interpretation that have been adopted by Miller and his associates, which are endorsed by God? The Bible tells us in Isaiah chapter 44 verses 6 through 8 that it is Jesus Christ who has appointed the ancient people in order to show unto us things that are coming and those things that shall come. Now, the ancient people of Islam is illustrating the modern day people of Islam at the end of the world. And depending on where we want to begin Islam, whether in the time of Muhammad in the 680 time period or in the book of Genesis, chapter 16, this is going to determine whether or not we believe that Islam comes from Rome. In Genesis chapter 16, verses 6 through 13, it is very clear that Christ is giving a prophecy concerning the history and character and future of Ishmael's descendants, which we know were the Islamic people. And it is very clear that it is Jesus who said that he would multiply his seed. Jesus also said that he would make him a fruitful nation and that he would be a wild man, that his hand will be against every man and every man's hand against him. Now, if his hand is against every man in warfare and battle and combat, then would that not also include the Catholic Church or the Jesuits or the secret societies, the United States of America and the United Nations and the whole world? Of course it would. So Jesus here is the one that's declaring the end from the beginning. We must recognize that Genesis 16 is the true birthplace or the foundation for the Islamic nation that we read about in Revelation chapter 9, and as well as the Muslim race that we see in world events today in our newspapers and our radios and also our media outlets. Now, I'd like to read a statement to you. This is coming from Patriarchs and Prophets concerning Genesis chapter 16, verse 12, and the Spirit of Prophecy actually commenting on these verses. The first question, or the first part of the question is, does Islam come from Rome? No. Well, why does God use them as his army? Well, it is clear that in Genesis chapter 16, Christ is the one that is in control of shaping the destiny of Islam. But also in the Spirit of Prophecy, we find in Patriarchs and Prophets, and this is page 174, Sister White tells us here, Abraham's early teachings had not been without effect upon Ishmael, but the influence of his wives resulted in establishing idolatry in his family. Separated from his father and embittered by the strife and contention of a home destitute of the love and fear of God, Ishmael was driven to choose the wild, marauding life of the desert chief, his hand against every man, and every man's hand against him. In his latter days he repented of his evil ways and returned to his father's God, but the stamp of character given to his posterity remained. The powerful nation descended from him were a turbulent, heathen people who were ever an annoyance and affliction to the descendants of Isaac. So it is clear that Ishmael had a knowledge of the true God. Thus, he was taught this by his father Abraham. But it was the heathen women that Ishmael married that established idolatry in his family. So here we have a combination of Christianity, represented by the teachings of Abraham, and also paganism, or the false system of worship and of pagan gods that he received from his wives. When we mix Christianity and paganism together, well, this is what produces the papacy. So we're seeing very clearly that the Islamic nation, yes, there is idolatry. They have a false god. It's, after all, it's a satanic power. Both Islam and also the papacy come from the bottomless pit in Revelation. So there is a connection there, of course, and similarities with the idolatry in both of these religious groups. But we see here that when Ishmael was about to die, he returned back to the God of Abraham, the God of his fathers. And so this is an example of many in the Muslim world who, when they hear the loud cry of the third angel, when they hear the tidings out of the east and north, they're going to also return back to the God of Abraham. They're going to join those that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. In Isaiah chapter 60, where the Bible speaks about arise and shine, for thy light is come and the glory of God is risen upon thee. And then it proceeds to talk about the Gentiles who are going to come to your light, and the abundance of the sea, peoples, nations, kindreds, and tongues are going to come unto thee and be converted unto thee. It is very clear that there's going to be many from the descendants of Ishmael that will also respond to the loud cry of the third angel, as is described in Revelation 18. We find here in Isaiah chapter 60, beginning in verse 5, it says, Then thou shalt see and flow together, and thine heart shall fear and be enlarged, because of the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee. The forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee. The multitudes of camels shall cover thee. The dromedaries of Midian and Ephah, all they from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and incense. They shall show forth the praises of the Lord. All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto thee. The rams of Nabaioth shall minister unto thee. They shall come up with acceptance on mine altar, and I will glorify the house of my glory. So it is very clear here that there's going to be many that are going to respond to the last warning message of mercy and receive the seal of God and stand with the true remnant. And then there's going to be those that will wander after the beast and receive the mark of the beast. So we hope that this has answered your question. And as always, we pray that your eyes have been enlightened as you've tasted a little of this honey. May God bless you.